And those were our people today. That's Holmes tonight.
The colourful and controversial career of our greatest broadcaster, Sir Paul Holmes, has died.
We have extensive coverage, including reaction from his people.
Kia ora, good evening. A familiar voice has been silenced. Now a host of people are speaking for broadcasting legend Sir Paul Holmes.
The top-rating TV and radio personality died at his home in Hawke's Bay early this morning, aged 62. Paul Hobbs, among many of us here at TVNZ who worked alongside Sir Paul, is outside his estate at Mana Lodge near Hastings. Paul.
Simon, yes, we're told Sir Paul died peacefully around 4 o'clock this morning, surrounded by his family here at Mana Lodge, where he wanted to be. Just a fortnight ago, down that driveway, 200 metres down there, he received his knighthood in a special ceremony. Now, he told us then that he was on borrowed time and that Houdini wouldn't get out of this one, but he saw out his 10th wedding anniversary a week ago. But today, he succumbed to his long battle with cancer and a failing heart. Sir Paul's younger brother and his wife were among a number of close friends and family who gathered early at Sir Paul's home. Flowers too arrived at the front gate as word of his death spread across the country.
He was a remarkable broadcaster. We will not see anyone like him again. He was a bit like Muldoon in some ways. He was absolutely irresistible.
I would regard him as the greatest broadcaster of all times. A man who led the revolution in television, changed the way we communicate, the man for the times.
It was a frail veteran broadcaster who made a final public appearance just a fortnight ago. But he's remembered for the sheer guts and determination it took to move Kiwi current affairs in a new direction.
Do you have enough food all of the time?
No, we don't have enough food.
He had a tremendous work ethic. He must have spent all on 15 years getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and he was still often at his desk in the television centre at probably 9 o'clock at night some nights. I've never known anyone quite like that.
Mr. Peters, please. And today, tributes from those at the top, well used to being grilled by the master.
I think Sir Paul would have been very proud of what he packed in the 62 years. He achieved a great deal more than most other people ever could. He's a very proud New Zealander, and I was certainly proud to call him a friend.
And that's your bedroom in the...
That's my bedroom, yes.
We've had a lot of robust encounters on radio and on television, but regardless of that, he was always stimulating to be with, and in many ways became a friend.
There was not a politician who wouldn't dare not go in his show, because that was the way in which they could connect with New Zealand. And even though Paul could be pesty, he could be persistent with them, it was in their interest to be seen with Paul Holmes.
Today, TVNZ lowered its flag as a mark of respect.
Very important person in there.
Hi, Paul.
Well, look at this. What's this?
One thing I remember really clearly with Paul was he said, use your head and your heart.
He was just a tremendous broadcaster, and nothing was left unsaid with Paul. There were no filters. What he felt and what he thought just came roaring out, blurting out, in a wonderful, quite surprisingly well-organised torrent.
A broadcaster gone, his legacy too large to forget. And in a statement today, his family said Sir Paul was more than a broadcaster. Paul was a loving husband and father, as well as a generous friend. He loved people, and people loved him. Now, details of his funeral arrangements should be available tomorrow.
You called him the master in your report, Paul. That was brilliant. Thank you very much. Paul Hobbs at Sir Paul's estate in Hawke's Bay.
Sir Paul's life in the spotlight has certainly been eventful. Mark Kreisel looks back at the colour and controversy.
Paul Holmes was the preeminent broadcaster of our age.
Thank you very much for having me.
But would you be interested in apologising to Mr. Farr?
From its very first guest.
Well, I thought some kind of apology was called for.
The Holmes show was as unpredictable.
Don't you wish you had a body like this?
As the bloke presenting it.
Look at that. You've seen me every night and you know exactly who you're talking to.
What about cleaning up? Do you do any?
Me? In the morning?
It's 5:03 on the posh Paul Holmes Drive Show. Who am I talking to, please?
Before Paul Holmes, radio and TV was mostly plummy accents mimicking the home country. He sounded like us.
Well, now, it's 14 minutes past 6. News Talk should be.
To some, he heralded the decline of Western civilization.
That Kofi Annan, I've got to say to you, he's been a very cheeky darky overnight.
I was trying to shock, I was trying to provoke. I was tired. It didn't work. I have apologised.
Half of us loved him, the rest tried not to. But he was impossible to ignore. He was number one on ZB in the morning, number one on the telly at night, and he loved us.
Are you frightened? Do you get frightened?
Yes, I do get frightened occasionally at night.
Because Paul Holmes could talk to anyone, could make the rich and powerful laugh, could make an All Black cry.
She was the lady that brought me onto the surf, and, you know, not to have her there was, it's the hardest thing.
He even negotiated in a hostage crisis.
Are they real explosives or they just look like explosives?
Oh, they're real enough, mate. They're real enough.
But his real and most consuming love was his family, daughter Millie, son Reuben, and wife Deborah.
A special guest.
With them, he fought off prostate cancer, a heart operation, and survived 3 crash landings. But his life was an open book, which we all read. Marriage breakups, addictions.
Thank you, I have nothing more to say. Millie is actually the sweetest person. There is so much love for Millie.
In November, fresh out of hospital, a group of his friends gave him a surprise party to thank him for all his charity work. His last interview was Kim.com. The biggest story of the year, Holmes had pursued him for months.
Do you believe John Key has lied?
Yes.
Do you have evidence of this?
Yes.
But that was the last big interview. His health failing, he reluctantly retired from broadcasting. By the new year, he was knighted.
Well, I'd like to be remembered as a good man. And I'd like to be remembered as a good broadcaster. And a good writer. Yeah.
Sir Paul Holmes, broadcaster, author, actor, singer, dancer, father, husband, son. New Zealand Order of Merit.
Those were our people today. That's Holmes tonight.
The cheeky chappie was 62.
Mark Kreisel with that report. Let's bring him in live now from the Auckland newsroom. And Mark, tell folks about the reaction within TVNZ to Sir Paul's death.
Yes, Simon, we all knew this was coming, but when the moment finally arrived, it came as something of a shock. I was up in the TVNZ cafe for breakfast. It was packed with people, everybody talking, getting ready for the weekend. And then it came on the television that Paul Holmes had died, and the place was just sombre, quiet. There were quite a lot of tears in people's eyes. This is the newsroom where he spent most of his career. And all day people have been telling stories about him, funny, sad, always funny actually. And here's one from one of his more well-known colleagues.
He was such a huge person in our industry. And the thing everyone forgets, when we started the Holmes show back in '89, it was so much fun. It is just, it's hard to comprehend now how much fun we had. And there was also so much to do with him, because he injected all that sort of energy and stuff.
Yes, no, television is a family. It's we work ridiculous hours for insane deadlines, and Paul was one of us. He was a member of our family. He changed everything that we did, and he'll be sorely missed.
He will indeed.
Our crazy uncle.
He will indeed. Thank you very much, Mark. Mark Kreisel.
Sir Paul was first heard on the airwaves 42 years ago and along the way helped change the face of commercial radio. He worked at News Talk ZB for more than 25 years, hosting his last weekly broadcast just 3 months ago. The station's general manager says Sir Paul left an indelible mark on New Zealand radio.
In 1987, when News Talk ZB began, talkback radio stations didn't exist. So he was right at the forefront of talkback. Certainly this radio station owes him a huge debt of gratitude.
Sir Paul hosted ZB's top-rating weekday breakfast show for the last time in December 2008.
And Sir Paul's television career also included hosting This Is Your Life. He surprised many unsuspecting famous New Zealanders about their starring roles, including opera singer Dame Malvina Major.
Paul Holmes,
excuse me.
You ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Not the first person to tell him that. Sir Paul interviewed many notable Kiwis on This Is Your Life, including All Black Michael Jones, and running great, Sir Peter Snell.
Excuse me, sir.
Sir Paul signed off his Holmes TV show with Our People every night. Today, we got reaction from everyday people around the country.
Yes, I think he was a character. He was a New Zealand icon.
I wasn't a huge fan, to be honest.
Why is that?
I just sometimes thought it was a bit more about him than it was the news he was reporting.
He's a little bit controversial at times, but definitely seemed an all-round decent sort of a dude.
He stood for what he really believed in and wasn't afraid to go against the crowd.
I guess I looked for a bit more substance than he had a lot of the time, but he certainly popularised a whole lot of stuff.
I really liked him. I thought he was a really nice guy.
I thought sometimes his interviews could have gone a bit better, maybe asked a few more hard questions.
And I used to listen to Paul in the mornings, watch him in the evenings, and had a major crush on him.
The thing with the American guy with the boats, that I thought he was really rude to him, so I never liked him after that.
He was a very strong individual, had a great sense of the moment, and he was somebody who drew attention to a lot of very interesting issues.
Oh, he was good, but, you know, there's two ways, 50-50.
Great sadness, great sadness.
I like the very flat, unemotional style of journalism, so he wasn't my cup of tea as a journalist.
I'll miss him. We'll miss him. The country will miss him. He was a good man.
It's very sad. It had to come, didn't it?
What can we say? You know, the end of an era for broadcasting in New Zealand.
Hundreds of people have been paying tribute to Sir Paul on our website. You can add your message on onenews.co.nz. And we've a half-hour special on Sir Paul Holmes straight after the news hour.
Highlights from his last television interview coming up a little later in this bulletin too. But right now, in other news and developing news, firefighters across West